Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing some Krawler test hands. So I'm really excited this week guys because this deck is actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Izzy. And this deck is a crazy awesome deck now that we finally have Krawler Soma in the TCG, out of Power of the Elements. It takes this deck to a whole new level and you have so many amazing combos to swarm the board in this particular build. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like in your name, description of a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. And definitely give Izzy some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So this deck is a super fun deck to be able to play with, especially now that we have Soma in the TCG, which just takes this deck to a whole new level, letting us special summon additional Krawler monsters straight from the deck by just reducing its level is absolutely crazy. You always want to open the card because it's just such a good card in this particular deck. But we have some really good starters in this particular build, even playing some Orcus card in this particular build, which is a super interesting concept for this deck. But you guys know it's dad rule number one that we got to pile shove the deck so we don't run the risk of breaking, even with a really consistent deck like this. So now that we got the deck pile shoveled, let's go ahead and see what we can do for our first test hand, because this deck is really fun to be able to play and just has some absolutely crazy plays. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Girsu, which is our Orcus card right off the bat, a copy of World Legacy Pawn, a copy of World Legacy Survivor, Deuce Krawler, and finally an Infinite Impermanence. This is actually a pretty interesting hand right off the bat. We don't have the copy of Soma, but that's totally fine because we can actually dig for it with a copy of World Legacy Survivor, because it will excavate the top 5 cards of our deck, and if we do, you get to add a excavated Krawler monster or a World Legacy card, and you send the rest to the graveyard. Otherwise, you shuffle all the cards back into the deck, and for the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special monsters except Link monsters, which is totally fine because all we're playing in the extra deck is a Zeus package besides Link monsters. So I'm going to go ahead and activate the copy of World Legacy Survivor just to dig into the deck and see what we can hit. See if we can hit a copy of Soma. It's not really going to matter because we don't have a level 2 Krawler monster, but we are going to get the copy of Soma for the follow-up play during the next turn. But we do have some really interesting plays with this particular opening hand, because we can normal summon out our copy of Girsu, and once we normal summon out Girsu, we can actually get a really cool play to send from our deck to the graveyard a copy of World Legacy's Mind Meld. Mind Meld is a really important card to get to the graveyard, which is why I'm playing 3 copies of Girsu and 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods, which is really important to be able to get your copy of Mind Meld to the graveyard because it can actually special summon Krawlers from the deck to zone a Link monster points to. Now you might be looking at this Girsu and going, well, great, you've got 1 normal summon, but this card actually generates a token because it has the ability that if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a Orcus or a World Legacy card from your deck to the graveyard. Then there's 2 other cards in this card's column. You can treat this card as a tuner this turn, and if you control no other monster, you can special summon a World Legacy token, Machined Dark, level 1, 0 attack and 0 defense to both players' fields in defense position. So we both get a token. My opponent and I both get a token. It's not that big of a deal that they get 1 token. It's going to go away later anyways, but at this point we can go ahead and link these 2 cards together, getting the copy of Mind Meld also in the graveyard to make our copy of Lib the World Key Blade Master, which is a really awesome card to be able to summon to the field. You can summon it to either zone. It doesn't super matter. Usually I summon it to the leftmost zone just so I can point right here instead of pointing in the middle, because it's a little less common to point to this zone with your other Link monsters, because you can work on this side and then work on this side and have your copy of your Deuce Krawler right over here in defense position, which is pretty good. Now keep in mind your opponent does have this token on their side of the field, which is again not that big of a deal, and with the cards that we have in our hand, it's really not going to matter, because now we can go ahead and activate the effect of Mind Meld, because this card has the ability that you can banish this card from the grave, target a Link monster on the field, and special summon a Krawler monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard to a zone that Link monster points to in face down defense position. Now it doesn't specify what level the Krawler monster has to be, so you can actually just instantly summon out a copy of Deuce Krawler X, or Deuce X Krawler, which is really insane. Like, this card is really good to be able to summon to the field because it has a crazy effect. If you guys have never read this card, you should definitely take a peek at what this card does, because it's basically like a skill drain, which is really insane. What this card actually does is when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets his face down monster, quick effect, you can change this card into face up defense. Negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. After this card was flipped face up, while it is in the monster summon, negate all monster effects activated on your opponent's field. And if this card on the field is destroyed battle by card effect, you can add from your deck to your hand one level 9 monster with a different original name or different original type and attribute than this card, which is a crazy effect that this card basically just negates all your opponent's monster effects once it's been flipped face up on the field. So we're just going to go ahead and target the copy of our Lib to be able to special summon our copy of Deuce Krawler. Now at this point we can go ahead and use the effect of Lib, which has the ability during the main phase, you can set a World Legacy spell or trap directly from your deck, but you can't activate it this turn while you have no World Legacy monster in your grave, which we don't have a World Legacy monster, but we're going to set a trap, so it's totally fine. You can actually set a copy of, say, Mind Meld to give you a negate for later, or if your opponent activates a Harpy's Feather Duster, we can just use it again to special summon out another monster, which is really good. Or you can thin the deck a little bit by setting another copy of World Legacy Survivor to be able to use this card during the next turn to excavate even more Crawlers, which is really, really good. I'm actually going to set the copy of World Legacy Survivor to my field because I already have World Legacy Pawn, which if you did not have World Legacy Pawn, this is your go-to card to be able to set to the field. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to my side of the field. This would already be set on the field, and then I'm going to set the copy of Infinite Impermanence to the field and pass over to the opponent. Now, once they go on their turn, you do have the copy of World Legacy Pawn that they don't know is there to target a face down monster you control and change it to face of attack or defense, which is pretty good to be able to just immediately activate this card and flip up your copy of your Deuce X Crawler, which turns basically your opponent's entire monster effects on the field off, essentially being a skill drain that is one-sided. That is really, really good to be able to just throw this card on your side of the field and just say, hey, you can't activate monster effects on your side of the field. You also have the copy of World Legacy Survivor for a follow-up play and a copy of Infinite Impermanence to be able to negate any monster effect or lock down a column, which is also really good for spells and traps. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and pass over to the opponent, let them do their thing. They do have a token, doesn't super matter because they're going to get their monster effects negated anyways. And we're going to go ahead into our next turn and draw into a copy of Foolish Burial Goods, activating our Foolish Burial Goods to immediately send another copy of Mind Meld from the deck to the grave. Unfortunately, again, we have not hit another Crawler monster. We play plenty of them in the deck. I think we play like 9 normal summons for Crawlers in the deck. So we're probably going to hit one with the copy of our World Legacy Survivor. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and give the deck a quick little cut, and let's see what we can do for our excavation. So we're going to go ahead and use the effect of our World Legacy Survivor and grab the top 5 off the deck. And once we grab the top 5 off the deck, we're going to go ahead and hope we hit any Crawler monster, which we do. We hit a copy of Receptor to be able to add from our deck to our hand, but we also hit Mind Meld. That's actually pretty good because now we can go in for even more plays. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and put this card in the grave, normal summon the Receptor onto our field, use the effect of Soma to be able to flip this card face down because Soma has a really, really good effect. If you guys have not checked this card out, you definitely should because this card is insane. You get to target a face-up monster that you control, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, change that targeted monster face down defense. Also, it cannot change its battle position for the rest of the turn, and then during your main phase, reduce this card's level by 2 or 4, and if you do, special summon Crawler monsters with different names from your hand deck or graveyard whose total levels equal the amount reduced in face up or face down defense, which is pretty good to just instantly get you a Crawler monster on the field. So we're actually targeting this card to flip it face down because we normal summon in attack mode, and we're actually going to reduce it by 4, making it a level 2 monster to give us 2 more level 2 monsters on the field, like a copy of Crawler Spine and a copy of our... Actually, leave it right there. That's totally fine. It doesn't matter. We're going to special summon out a copy of Axion as well. My favorite is actually Spine, so definitely comment down below what your favorite Crawler monster is. Mine is actually Spine. I really like the art of Spine, and it makes me think of Man-Eater Bug, the old school OG Crawler monster. So, now at this point, we're going to go ahead and link climb. We can still link summon, so that's really, really good. So I'm actually going to go ahead and link summon into a copy of IP Masquerena using this copy of Soma right here. And you can set the copy of your other monster to the field, like your copy of Spine, to give you a pop of a monster later, to summon out your copy of your IP Masquerena. Actually, you got to summon the IP Masquerena in a different position because your copy of your Lib is actually not pointing there. So let's go ahead and link summon away that copy of Lib. Or yeah, let's go ahead and link away that copy of Lib and leave this face up because it's going to get us more plays in the long run anyways. Make IP Masquerena here. And then we're going to go ahead and make another copy of Lib right here, which is just going to get us more plays in a long run of things. You can make access code talker here. It's totally up to you if you want to make access code here. That is an option for you guys, but you can also make a copy of Phoenix here. Now, Phoenix is a good option here because you do have that zone right here that you can use with your copy of Mind Meld, which is why I do consider actually making the copy of Phoenix. Because now you can use your copy of Mind Meld, target this card on your side of the field, and once you do, you can use the ability to special summon an additional Krawler monster from your hand deck or graveyard. So we're going to go ahead and banish our copy of Mind Meld, target our copy of Phoenix, and then once we do, we're going to special summon out an additional Krawler monster, letting us special summon out a copy of, say, you could special summon out Ravener because it would get you 2 of your Krawler monsters back from your graveyard and add them back to your hand, like your copy of Soma that we linked away, which is why I play that card as a 1-of in this deck. So at this point, then we're going to link these 2 monsters away, and once we do, we're actually going to summon out a copy of Avermax. I thought it'd be really cool to actually be able to play Avermax, Lib, and Girsu all in the same deck, because they're a part of the World Legacy lore, which is just really, really cool, because you have the copy of the Girsu, the Orcust Mech Knight, you have the copy of your Lib, and you have the copy of Avermax. So you have basically all of their final forms in this particular deck, which is just super cool to me to have all of them in this particular build. Oh, also with this card cannot be targeted, cannot be destroyed by card effects, and your opponent must attack this card, which is really cool about this card effect, because also when they attack into this card, it's also going to gain the attack points of special summon monsters that it battles, which gets it really, really big and just makes a really cool boss monster. You also have the Ravener that can flip up later, and the copy of Receptor to be able to use Receptor's effect to add a Krawler monster from your deck to your hand, and you have Ravener to be able to grab back Soma to get into more plays later on, and being able to OTK with your copy of your Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax, and you have a one-sided skill drain with this card and World Legacy Pawn that can flip cards face up and face down, which is really cool. You also have Infinite Impermanence to lock down spell and trap card zones, which is just absolutely crazy. Like, this deck has so many plays now to be able to go into, which is just super nice. Especially if you open up with Soma, you can get into some really insane plays, which is nice. But if you don't open up Soma, you can still go in for those plays, which is cool. Your big starters that I say are like the complete, in my opinion, blowout cards of the deck is opening up a copy of Soma, opening up a copy of your Girsu, or even surprisingly enough, a great follow-up card that's a great blowout card is Scapegoat in the deck, because this card can get you a Link 4, this can get you set up with a copy of your Deuce X Krawler, and this can get you 2 additional Krawler monsters on the field and get you 4 monsters on your side of the field, getting you at least a Link 2, which is really, really good. And that's, let's go ahead and go into the next test hand and see what we can do. Now, keep in mind, as you play the deck, you have to open up your copy of Girsu to be able to make Lib, because you have to have a World Legacy card in the graveyard to be able to even link summon your copy of Lib, which is very important to keep in mind as you're playing the deck. But being able to summon out Avermax is really cool, but you can also summon out a copy of Access Code if you want to be able to pop multiple cards and go in for game, which is really, really nice. And your copy of Lib can also set additional cards to your side of the field once per turn, which is a really awesome effect. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck again and see what we can do for our next test hand. So I'm going to go ahead and draw into a copy of World Legacy Pawn, a copy of Axion, Soma this time, a copy of Ash Blossom, and a copy of Foolish Burial Goods. So this is actually pretty good right off the bat because the Foolish Burial Goods and the Soma. So I'm going to use Foolish Burial Goods to immediately get from our deck to the graveyard a copy of our Mind Meld. Now, this is important to get your copy of Mind Meld to the graveyard so we can make our copy of Lib, and then finally use the copy of World Legacy Mind Meld to be able to banish, target the Lib, and then put a copy of our Deuce X Krawler on our side of the field. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and normal summon out the copy of Axion to my side of the field, just right here. It doesn't really matter. As long as you keep this furthermost left zone open, you're going to be fine. So at this point, I'm going to special summon out the copy of Soma, flipping my copy of Axion face down, reducing this card to a level 2, and special summoning out 2 more monsters to the field. I'm just going to go ahead and special summon out a copy of Spine to the field, and it doesn't matter what the other one is. It could be a Ravener, could be a copy of your Deuce X, as long as basically it's one of your other Krawler monsters, you're totally fine what you're summoning. You can summon out even Receptor if you feel like you need to. So let's just summon out Receptor to the field because we can get back more cards later. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and link these two cards away to immediately summon out a copy of Lib, since we do have a World Legacy card in the graveyard in the form of our World Legacy Mind Meld. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and target the copy of Lib. Once we do, we're going to go ahead and use the effect to be able to special summon out our copy of our Deuce X to our side of the field in face down defense position. And since we already have World Legacy Pawn, we're just going to go ahead and grab World Legacy Survivor, or you can actually grab a Mind Meld, which is a negate, which is kind of cool. It's kind of sort of a negate with also a special summon for 2, because you can actually bounce one of your Crawlers back to hand, and since it left the field, it will actually go off to be able to let you special summon 2 additional Crawlers to your side of the field. So we technically have a one-sided skill drain, stopping your opponent's effect, and basically a hand trap to stop your opponent. So kind of sort of 3 negates, which is kind of neat. So let's go ahead and set this to our side of the field. This would be set by the copy of Lib. And then we also have the Ash Blossom to use against the opponent, which we could just go ahead and discard and say we used. So at the beginning of our opponent's turn, we're going to go ahead and flip the copy of Pawns, flipping our copy of our Deuce X Crawler to our side of the field to give us that one-sided skill drain. And then you also have the effects of your other 2 Crawler monsters to be able to pop a monster and pop a spell, which is a pretty good effect. We also have Mind Meld as the ability to, when an opponent's monster activates its effect, while you control a Crawler monster, you can activate the effect that becomes return one face-up monster that your opponent controls to the hand, making that opponent's monster's effect bouncing one of our monsters back to our hand, like a copy of our Spine, that will then go off and special summon out 2 more Crawlers from our deck in face down defense, which is pretty good just to get any 2 Crawlers on the side of the field. It could be any 2 that you feel you need in that particular situation. It does not have to be these particular 2 that you're going to actually summon. I would actually summon out a copy in this situation with our copy of Spine already on the field. I would actually summon out a copy of Receptor, and I would summon out the copy of Ravener, because Ravener is going to be able to grab back your copy of your Soma from the grave. These are the ones I usually summon if I did open up Soma off the effect of Spine, or off of any of the Crawlers that were bouncing back, because if I can summon these, I can use the effect of my Receptor to get another Soma, and then this is going to grab back a Crawler from my deck, or from my graveyard to my hand, like a copy of Soma and my copy of my other level 2 Crawler that I want to normal summon, which is pretty good to get us set up. So let's go ahead and do another test hand and see what we can do for the next one, because as you guys can see, deck is super consistent, can go in for some really good plays, and you can just summon out some crazy powerful monsters. Hopefully we open up Scapegoat and I can actually show you guys what you can do with Scapegoat. If we don't open up Scapegoat in this particular hand, I'll just go ahead and add it to my hand to show you guys what it actually does for this deck. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next one. Hopefully we draw into it. If we don't, that's totally fine. I'll just grab it and show you guys what you can do with it. So we're gonna draw into a copy of Soma, Foolish Burial Goods, another Foolish Burial Goods, or a copy of the Crawler, and we got Scapegoat. So that's perfect. That's actually really good. We don't have anything we can actually use in this hand, which is a little unfortunate, but we do have the copy of the Foolish Burial Goods to get our copy of our World Legacy Mind Meld into the grave. So we don't have a monster we can actually use with Soma, but that's totally fine because I can just show you guys what your copy of Scapegoat does. So we're going to go ahead and set the copy of Scapegoat to the field. And this is why I like Scapegoat in the deck, is because it can get you into some really good plays. So at this point, your opponent's going to go, they're going to do whatever they want to do, and we're going to go ahead and flip up the copy of Scapegoat during their end phase to be able to summon out all of these tokens to our side of the field. Now this is very important because this basically says we've got a link 4, which is really nice. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of World Legacy Survivor, which is not that big of a deal because we already have Soma. As long as we can get to a copy of a Crawler monster in face-up position, that's totally fine, because then we can use Soma's effect, or any monster, we can use Soma's effect. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and link these 2 away to summon out a copy of Lib, because Lib just requires any 2 monsters and can only be link summoned if you have a World Legacy card in the grave, which we do have Mind Meld, so you can use your copy of Lib. We're going to make our copy of Lib use her effect to be able to set to our side of the field a copy of World Legacy Pawn. World Legacy Pawn will go off later on to be able to use it as the one-sided skill drain, just like we've done before with our copy of Deuce Crawler, to be able to use that card. Now we're going to go ahead and link these 2 away for a copy of IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena is going to let us go in for more plays to be able to go in for a copy of Avramax if we're going second. But if you want to go in for a different play, you can go in for IP Masquerena first and then have the 2 tokens on your side of the field, which would not get you the copy of your World Legacy pawn. You would actually be able to link in for a copy of your Link Spider and Link Karibo going first, which in turn with these 3 monsters would equal an Appaloosa, using all 3 of these cards to make a 3 material Appaloosa, which is another option for you guys if you want to do that. If you are going to just immediately activate this and you're going up against a monster heavy deck that you feel like a 2400 attack point monster can deal with. That is an option for you guys if you feel like you want to go that route, but I usually don't go that route. I usually just immediately go for the copy of Lib, and then once I go for the copy of Lib on my side of the field, I'll then link away these 2 on my side of the field to immediately go for the copy of IP Masquerena down here, use the copy of Lib effect, put this face down, and then I'll link these 2 away to summon out a copy of our Avermax, which is really good just to get us that big boss monster on the field, because it's going to get us so many plays. Now, before we actually use World Legacy Survivor, I don't want to mill out the extra copies that we have on the field, so I'm going to use the copy of Mind Meld. You could have used this earlier to be able to summon out your other card. If you made IP first and then made your copy of Lib, you could have done it a little earlier, because you could have summoned out the copy of the Deuce Krawler over here, or even over here, and then summon Lib somewhere else, which is an option for you guys. So we're going to go ahead and set the copy of the Deuce Krawler on our side of the field. Doesn't matter when you activated that. You can just basically just activate at any point in the combo, as long as you don't clog up your link zone. So now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and activate the copy of World Legacy Survivor to be able to grab the top 5 of the deck. And once we do, we're hopefully going to get a Krawler, because we have not normal summon. We're actually not going to get a Krawler. We're going to get Somas. We're just going to get Somas off of this. That's a little unfortunate, because now we don't have another summon, but that's fine, because now we can just attack with our copy of our Crusadia Avermax. And this is why it's really important to be able to pile shuffle with this deck, because sometimes you will draw into multiple Somas, and you don't want to hit multiple Somas in this deck, because if you do, you run into situations like that. Now, we also have the copy of World Legacy Pawn to be able to flip this up during the opponent's turn to give us a one-sided skill drain, and then our opponent's going to also have to deal with this card with either spells or traps now, because we're going to negate those monster effects with our copy of our Deuce X, which is really cool. So let's go ahead and draw and see what we can do for the final turn. We're drawing to a copy of World Legacy Pawn, and we don't hit anything with this particular lineup, which is totally fine, because we pretty much are just going to go in with Avermax, because that card is already hard enough to out, and you can basically just win with these 2 on the field, which is really nice. So I think that pretty much shows how the deck works. The deck is super fun to be able to play. You have some awesome plays that you go into. It's very much different now that we have Soma from the previous builds, which is kind of cool. I like it. It's a little faster than it used to be, because before it was just set your crawlers on your side of the field and hope, and maybe play some tech cards like Scapegoat and stuff like that. But now that we have our copies of Soma, this deck is just really, really, really good and really insane. If you guys would like to check out the deck profile, as always, it is down in the description down below, just like with every test hand videos. And thank you so much for watching, guys. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.